jump into a conversation with Frank Williams of Staten Island Shakespeare. Again, I apologize for the technical difficulties we're having. Somehow tonight, Instagram Live is not cooperating. Frank,
Hey,
how you doing?
I'm doing good.
Can you hear me all right?
I can hear you just fine.
All right, fantastic. So I apologize for having some kind of technical issues tonight, but us being at the mercy of the legacy of Steve Jobs and all of that, there are certain limitations. So, but we'll proceed, and hopefully everyone can hear us all right and participate as planned. So, Frank, you are the artistic director of the Staten Island Shakespeare Theatre Company.
That's correct.
And Frank, you guys just put on just recently a production of Two Gentlemen of Verona over there in Staten Island.
Right.
Okay, and as far as I know, Frank, I was looking up the information about Staten Island Shakespeare. Staten Island Shakespeare apparently traces back to 1975. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah, we're the oldest continually active theater company on Staten Island.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, I would say, you know, there's the Shakespeare in the Park from the Public Theater, and that's been around for about 60 plus years.
Right.
And then, you know, there's a couple of other theater companies in New York City. There's the Classical Stage and a couple of others that are in the mid 30-year range, but 75, that's 45 years. That's a long time for a Shakespeare company, especially, but any kind of Shakespeare company to be, is that, at what point did you get involved in the company, Frank?
I've been involved since 2016, so fairly recently in the history. Unfortunately, even though we've been Staten Island Shakespearean Theatre for over 40 years, there were many decades where we weren't doing much or any Shakespeare at all.
Okay.
So it kind of somewhere in the 80s and throughout the 90s, it kind of took a left turn and did a lot of musicals and things like that. So we're kind of glad that we've you know, at least since 2016, and really I guess a couple of years before I got there, they started to do some more Shakespeare, but since then we've really made classical theater and Shakespeare the focus again.
You know, I think I recall that there were a couple of times that I came out to Staten Island and caught a couple of the productions over there, and it was more musical theater oriented.
Right.
So I'm glad you're bringing it back in the classical direction, bring it back towards Shakespeare.
Right. Well, it only made sense with our name and you know, our original mission as a nonprofit. You know, so I mean, not only does it, you know, have a lot more artistic possibilities, but you know, funding wise, it went a long way to actually do Shakespeare again.
I'm sure. Now, Frank, for those of us who are watching, I'm sure the majority of people who are watching either now or when it's going to be replayed later on the replay on IGTV, on Facebook, on YouTube, I would assume the majority of people that are watching are from New York, but I'm sure we'll have some that are not. So for those that don't know, Staten Island is one of the 5 boroughs. I would say, unfortunately, probably the most often overlooked of the 5 boroughs. It's probably the smallest with the least people living there. So what made you decide to take upon the mantle of the head of Staten Island Shakespeare?
Well, I started to get involved in the year before I became artistic director in 2015. I was a production of Macbeth. In the previous years before that, I had thought about getting involved because that's when they really started to do Shakespeare again. It was really, I would say it was really in 2012 when they did a production of Julius Caesar on the steps of Borough Hall here on Staten Island that I decided to get more interested in the organization. Before that, I mean, I have a background in theater, graduate of Wagner College on Staten Island, which is one of the top theater schools, although, again, very musical theater oriented. But basically, I spent a lot of time as a fundraiser for a lot of different nonprofits throughout the city, like the Prospect Park Alliance, New York Restoration Project, a lot of culturals here on Staten Island. And so I was finally able to kind of bring all that stuff together into one job that is a dream job for me, really.
Hmm. Okay. And when you joined Staten Island Shakespeare, as you mentioned earlier, they were a little bit more oriented towards some other things, musical theater, and some of the not really so much Shakespeare in the classics. How difficult was
Right.
it for you to come in and reorient the direction to that?
It wasn't easy. But it seemed like it was ultimately it was inevitable because for the first time in a long time, we were doing the classical works and we were getting larger grants, and so I was like, the proof is in the pudding, you know. I mean, this is what's going to really make us be able to grow. And in those 40 years, we ran through a lot of different cycles, and we've expanded and there was contractions.
Mm-hmm.
For many of those decades, we had a space here on Staten Island,
Mm-hmm.
and I guess about 12 or 13 years ago, we lost that space,
Okay.
and that's when the organization kind of didn't really know what to do next.
Mm-hmm.
But it was then only a few years later that they then started to do some free Shakespeare again.
Mm-hmm.
And although for a couple of years there, that was like the only show in the season,
Mm-hmm.
then pretty much once I got on board, I kind of took that idea and just kind of ran with it. And slowly but surely, we've been growing our season to about 5 shows a year.
5 shows a year. That's
Yeah.
a pretty healthy program you have there. Many theater companies are really pushing if they do 3 shows a year. So 5 is that's a good number.
Right. Well, one of them is I say 5 productions a year, but really 2 of them happened simultaneously. At least in 2019, we initiated the summer repertory program. So
Mm-hmm.
we did one cast did both Antigone and Much Ado About Nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So even though I counted that as 5 shows, 2 of them were running simultaneously.
Right.
And this year, 2020, we were hoping to expand to 6, but of course, with things how they were, we were happy that we managed to get Two Gentlemen up.
So talk to me about that, Frank. I know that everyone I've spoken to in this program has been impacted in a very extreme way by the coronavirus. So what was the original plan before you guys had to shut down? And then what was the decision to come back and do it again?
Well, we shut down about a week before we were going to open Curse of the Starving Class by Sam Shepard.
Mm-hmm.
We still have one slot where we do what we call an American classic.
Mm-hmm.
And that was going to open a week before in March. We shut down then. We then had to cancel our June summer rep. Originally, we had scheduled, I was going to direct Hamlet in September.
Okay.
But, with the shutdown and everything, we were really going, month by month.
Mm-hmm.
But by June, when things started to slow down a little bit and we started to get into like phase 4, or at least I can't remember now. It's like, it's such a whirlwind,
I don't know what phase we're in right now. I have no idea.
Right. I think around June, it was either the end of June, we either started phase 4 or we were talking about going into phase 4 and what that meant. And, then, it seemed that it would be possible to do an outdoor show,
Mm-hmm.
as long as we maintain social distance. And and to keep everybody safe, we realized that we would have to have the actors masked during rehearsal and have rehearsal outdoors.
Mm-hmm.
So we've had experience over the last 4 or 5 years or so of doing outdoor theater. So I figured this is definitely in our bag. This is definitely something that we could do.
Okay.
So in June, at the end of June, we decided to go ahead with a September show.
Mm-hmm.
But I decided that, this is not the year to do Hamlet.
Right.
Especially with outdoor rehearsals and, that's going to be, I lost a lot of rehearsals because of rainouts and things like that. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So I knew that I would have, I would have a tight rehearsal schedule to do it. So I didn't want to do something as big as Hamlet. And then I figured, if we're gonna do masked actors on stage, I wanted to give it an artistic touch to it. I didn't want to just put actors on stage and in masks in just any old way. So I decided to do the Two Gentlemen of Verona because I found that there was a strong tradition of Commedia Dell'Arte in that piece and in the characters in that piece, which is something that I had been interested in for a few years now. On the side, I was actually running a few Commedia Dell'Arte workshops with some of my actors about 2 years ago. So I kind of had that in my pocket, and things kind of all came together, and I said, oh, so we're going to do mass theater, then let's do mass theater, So, a lot of thought went into what the actors' face masks would look like. So ultimately, we went with a design choice of making them look like the bottom half of Venetian masks.
I'll look up an image over here, and you'll see on the, for those in the audience, you'll see on the bottom of this composite image, you'll see some of the masks that Frank used in that production. Right.
And that worked really well. It was really effective. The challenges involved with it were, it had to be very physical. A lot of times I was telling the actors, like, things that you learned in acting class about not indicating, throw that all out the window for this, because we have to make things very clear since we don't have the full facial expression.
Right.
The expression of eyes, are very important, which again kind of goes against a lot of naturalistic acting. But it was a really great experience to go through that and work through those things. And it's it's a memory that I'll definitely cherish for a lifetime, getting through and getting all this together.
Tell me about how the audience was, Frank. We talked about this with some of the members of the New York Shakespeare different groups. Right. And it seemed like there was, from the people that I heard from, there was some hesitation, some reluctance, even in social distancing, even with masks, to come out and attend a live performance. Did you have good response from the audience? Did you have good turnout?
We had a great turnout. Our online tickets sold out within 20 hours. I mean, it's a free show. It was a free, I should emphasize that there were free tickets. We had only 50 tickets for 4 performances available online. And they were gone. They were like gone in less than a day.
Wow.
Yeah. And that, I found that, I was very surprised. I didn't, because like you were saying, I didn't know how it was going to go. I knew it could go either way. It was like either people are going to be too afraid to come and no one will get them, or maybe people are like, really, really jonesing for some entertainment out there. And so it proved that was the case.
And I think that's what you hit into. I think people are just cooped up and they're tired, and
right.
And, of course there will be some that don't want to get out there, and they prefer, the Zoom productions. They prefer to stay at home, but there are that many more that want to get out there and they want that live theatrical presentation. And if you're doing it in the format where it's with masks and social distancing, and you did the masks in a very clever way, you put that Commedia Dell'Arte aspect into it. So I think that's a very nice way to take something that's a necessary thing and stylize it in a way that behooves your production. So that's wonderful. And you had positive feedback. Everyone enjoyed the production.
Oh yeah, everyone was thrilled to be active and working and being able to play.
That's fantastic.
So yeah, it was well worth it. It was fraught with a bunch of anxieties.
Sure.
At any minute, if anybody had gotten sick or tested a positive, we definitely would have had to shut down for a couple of weeks.
Of course. Yeah.
But we were very lucky, and as we got closer to the show opening, it was more like, man, this is really the bracket now where no one can get sick. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So it was a tightrope walk. and you know, we were lucky we came out of it on the other end.
Well, I applaud you for doing everything you did, and I'm happy that people gave you a positive response and that you're putting out strong content for people in this challenging time. What's coming up next for Staten Island Shakespeare, Frank?
Well, that's a good question. We do have an annual holiday show that we do every year, which of course it's a December show, so it's usually inside. So I'm looking at ways that maybe I can actually bring it outdoors if I can have some cooperation from the Parks Department, maybe get some outside heaters. I'm thinking, or maybe even move it around and make it some kind of a walkthrough, interactive experience.
Right.
I don't know. I'm kind of talking a little bit ahead of myself because I don't have that. I don't have all the pieces in place yet. But I mean, the good thing is having this experience under our belt. I think gives us some credibility in being able to pull it off again.
Right.
So that's good. So we're trying to get that underway. And then for next season, you know, I think it's still a little too early to plan everything out yet. Right. Especially since our early spring shows, you know, usually our next show is in March. But I'm looking at ways that I could bring that outside too.
Okay. All right. So where can people go online to check out Staten Island Shakespeare and see what's coming up next and join your feed?
That's sishakespeare.org. That's our website. That's always a good place. You know, you can find us at Staten Island Shakespearean Theatre Company on Facebook and on Instagram. Right now I'm logged in on the company's Instagram, so you can just follow this here right now.
All right. Well, Frank, I thank you very much for taking the time to join us tonight, and congratulations on Two Gentlemen of Verona. I look forward to many more good things from you and your company.
Thank you. It was a pleasure to be on. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Frank.
All right, bye.
Okay, so we just had a lovely chat with Frank Williams of the Staten Island Shakespeare Company. For those who are joining us a little bit later, we had a little bit of a technical snafu in the first portion of our program. We did a bit of